Imagine you're packing your suitcase, ready to discover the world, but unaware that you're also carrying your fears, your vulnerabilities, and worse yet, the possibility of losing more than you might gain. Because, although few talk about it, traveling after 60 isn't always that promise of freedom sold on postcards. Sometimes it's a shortcut to loneliness, fragility, and exhaustion, wrapped up in the false idea of adventure. Today, I want to speak plainly. There are hidden dangers no one warns you about when you decide to set out on a journey at this stage of life. And I'm not just talking about accidents or unexpected mishaps, I'm talking about deeper risks, the ones that shake your emotional stability, your health, and most importantly, your sense of purpose. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you the 7 dangers that may be lurking if you're not fully aware. And let me warn you, the final lesson might completely change the way you choose to invest your time and energy from now on. I'm Gabriel, and if you've ever wondered whether hitting the road or crossing the ocean after 60 is really a good idea, this video might give you the answer no one else dares to tell you. Stick around till the end. Your well-being depends on it. Let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you thought that traveling, leaving your city or even your country would be the magical fix for that emptiness you've been feeling lately? How many times have you scrolled through social media, seen others, maybe younger, traveling the world and told yourself, that's what I need, a big adventure to feel alive? But here's the uncomfortable question. Do you really believe that changing the scenery will change what you're carrying inside? This is the first point I want you to understand today. It's about the illusion of total freedom. We've been sold the idea that after 60 or 70, when your kids no longer depend on you and your career is behind you, it's the perfect moment to take your life back, to throw yourself out into the world unburdened, as if simply crossing borders or packing a suitcase would be enough to feel free. But what no one tells you is that the real prison isn't the place where you live. It's how you live with yourself. You could be thousands of miles from home and still be trapped by your own fears, frustrations, and unresolved emotions. Let me share something with you. Years ago, I met a man, let's call him Ernest, who decided to travel across Europe after retiring. He had a decent pension, his kids had moved out, and he thought it was the perfect time to make up for lost time. In the photos, everything looked perfect. Smiling in Paris, strolling through Rome, sailing in Greece. But when he came back, something in his eyes had shifted. One afternoon, in a conversation without photos or filters, he admitted to me that he had never felt lonelier than during those days surrounded by crowds. That the landscapes were beautiful, yes, but every night in his hotel room, he felt the same heaviness he'd felt before leaving. Because wherever he went, he always ran into the same companion, himself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that true freedom is being a slave only to your own reason. And that's the key. We believe that physically distancing ourselves from our routines, from our responsibilities, will set us free. But if you haven't learned how to master your mind, your thoughts, and your emotions, no border will liberate you. It's a mirage, an illusion that fades the moment you return home, or even sooner. Do you see it? Freedom isn't in the plane ticket or the photos with exotic backdrops. It's in how you handle your ordinary days, in how you face your emptiness without trying to distract yourself, in how you accept the stage of life you're in and choose to fill it with purpose from within, not from outside. Now I want you to ask yourself, what kind of freedom are you chasing? The one that shows up in the pictures, or the one you feel when, no matter where you are, you know you're in control of your thoughts and emotions? Because if it's the latter, the most important journey doesn't start at an airport. It starts here and now, with yourself. And believe me, if this sounds tough, wait until you hear about the next hidden danger no one warns you about when you decide to travel after 60. because you might not just lose time and energy, but something far more valuable. Stick around. This is just getting started. By now you've seen how the supposed freedom of traveling after 60 can be nothing more than a mirage. But the illusion doesn't end there. There's another silent enemy, far more subtle, hiding behind every travel plan, every tour package, every tempting offer. And it has nothing to do with the destination you choose. It's about what you overlook in the process. We've reached the second key point of this video, the hidden cost that never appears in the brochures. When I talk about cost, I'm not just referring to the money you spend. That's the obvious part. Travel agencies, airlines, hotels, they all show you clear numbers, the price of the ticket, the room rate, the breakfast package. But there's something they never include in those calculations, and that's the price you pay with your energy, your health, and your peace of mind. That hidden cost isn't measured in bills, it's measured in physical and mental strain. And it may well be the most expensive of all. Think for a moment about the logistics of a trip. It's not just about boarding a plane or hopping on a bus. It's about handling luggage, keeping up with schedules, dealing with delays, chaotic airports, meals outside your routine, and in many cases, walking more than your body is used to. If you're over 60 or 70, your body doesn't respond the way it used to. Your habits, your rest, and your health require special care that isn't always compatible with the unpredictability of travel. But there's something even more delicate, the impact this strain has on your mind. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinion about them." And often, without realizing it, you impose the expectation that travel should be perfect, exciting, rejuvenating. But when exhaustion sets in, when the stress of not understanding another language or misplacing a document overwhelms you, frustration creeps in. And that frustration isn't just a passing annoyance. For those already living with certain concerns, loneliness, distance from family, fear of dependence, these tensions can amplify anxiety and deepen the feeling of losing control. Now think about the consequences. You come back home not only physically drained, but mentally restless, unsatisfied, maybe even with your body paying the price for pushing past your limits, for ignoring the signals. And worst of all, with the bitter sense that despite the money spent and the effort made, you still didn't fill that inner void you were trying to quiet. From a spiritual perspective, this is a common mistake, seeking externally what can only be resolved internally. The Bible reminds us, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." If your treasure is in piling up experiences to fill an emptiness, sooner or later you'll realize that nothing external can sustain you if you haven't first found peace within yourself. Here's the trap. You pay with your health and well-being for something that, in the end, doesn't necessarily leave you more fulfilled. And that price is steep, too steep, when you consider that at this stage of life, every day, every ounce of energy you spend should be directed toward building a lighter, calmer existence, not a more chaotic one. So I ask you, what are you sacrificing when you embark on a trip without accounting for this hidden cost? Is it really worth handing over your peace to a hectic itinerary, to an external pursuit that often only delays what you truly need to face? Stay with me, because in the next point, we'll look at one of the most painful consequences these trips can bring, one that directly affects the most important relationship you have, the relationship with yourself. And you might not even realize how much it's impacting you. By now, you've seen that traveling isn't always the dream escape you've been led to believe. You've realized there's a hidden cost, not just financial, but physical and mental, that may not always be worth paying. But now we've reached the third point of this video, and this is where things start to shift, because it forces you to face something deeper, loneliness disguised as adventure. Many people who decide to travel after 60 do so thinking they'll find new connections, meet people, and avoid being alone. But let me share an uncomfortable truth. You can be surrounded by crowds and still feel utterly alone. In fact, it's more likely you're in an unfamiliar place surrounded by people who speak a different language with customs that aren't your own. And while it all might seem exciting on the surface, when night falls, the loneliness weighs twice as much, not just because you're far from home, but because deep down, you realize what you were really craving wasn't just a conversation. It was a deeper connection, not small talk with strangers on a tour. The problem isn't traveling. The problem is believing the trip will fix the disconnection you feel inside. And here's where I want to offer you a practical strategy you can start using today, without leaving your house, without booking a flight. Take a different kind of journey, a journey inward. There's a Stoic practice that few talk about, but it has an enormous impact, and that's daily contemplation. I'm not talking about meditating in silence for hours or doing complicated exercises. I mean simply sitting down 5 minutes a day in the quietest place you can find and asking yourself one simple question. What truly makes me feel accompanied? What part of myself have I stopped listening to? This question is powerful because it shifts your focus to where it should have always been, not on searching outward, but on strengthening the relationship with yourself. Marcus Aurelius said that man is disturbed not by things, but by his opinion of them. And often, it's our opinion about loneliness that traps us. We believe we're alone because no one is physically present, when in reality, the disconnection comes from neglecting ourselves, from not cultivating a solid relationship with our own soul. Think of a tree. It doesn't matter how many birds land on its branches. If its roots are weak, it will sway at the first gust of wind. You are that root. The strategy is to strengthen it. How? Start by recognizing the small things in your day that connect you to yourself. Writing, reading, praying, taking care of your body, giving yourself a moment without distractions. When you do this, you realize you don't need to cross the world to feel accompanied. All it takes is learning to be with yourself, to be loyal to yourself, to value yourself. I want you to reflect on this and let me know in the comments which country you're listening from today. And if this idea resonates with you, write the phrase, "I am my best companion." It's a simple but powerful affirmation. And if you found any value in this message, don't forget to subscribe and hit like, because what's coming next is just as important. There are still 4 essential lessons left, and the last one, trust me, might completely change how you choose to live your next years. Stay with me. We're just scratching the surface. In the previous chapter, we talked about that loneliness disguised as adventure, how many people look outward for what's missing within, believing that crossing borders will ease the weight of being alone with themselves. But there's something else that happens on these trips, something quieter that not only affects your mind and heart, but also begins to leave marks on your body. It's time now to talk about the 4th key point in this video, the physical strain no one warns you about. There are no glossy brochures that mention this. You won't find a single agency telling you the harsh truth that every trip, every suitcase, every sudden change in routine comes with a price your body pays more dearly with each passing year. And the biggest mistake many people make is underestimating that price. They fall into the mental trap of thinking their body is the same as it was 20 or 30 years ago. They cling to an outdated image of themselves, ignoring the signals their body sends today. Because no one likes to admit, head-on, that the machine keeping us going now requires a different kind of care, a different level of attention. And the modern world, with its promises of eternal youth and must-see experiences, only fuels that denial. It sells us the idea that age is just a number, that sheer willpower is enough to push past any limit. But this is where Stoicism demands that we face reality without excuses. Epictetus reminded us that what's within our control isn't the body itself, but how we choose to care for it and work with it. Ignoring its limits, overworking it unnecessarily, skipping meals, disrupting sleep, subjecting it to stress and fatigue, that's a slow and dangerous way of betraying yourself. And it's not that the body ages and becomes your enemy, it's that by denying reality, by refusing to adjust your pace, you end up working against yourself. Think about it. A poorly planned trip filled with long transfers, heavy meals, sleepless nights, sudden weather changes, it can trigger something far more serious than you expect. It can worsen ailments, disrupt your rest, and slowly chip away at your independence. Because when the body weakens, the mind suffers too. One fall, one illness from carelessness, one bout of untreated exhaustion can throw off that delicate balance that allows you to stay independent. And when you lose that autonomy, you're not just losing mobility, you're losing confidence, losing security in yourself. All those things that are so hard to maintain after 60 start to unravel. Here's the root of the mistake. Trying to prove that you've still got it at the expense of your well-being, without realizing that true strength doesn't come from pushing yourself past your limits, but from listening, humbly, to what your body is telling you. Stoic philosophy doesn't disregard the body, it simply refuses to idolize it. It sees the body as a tool, and like any tool, if you don't take care of it, if you use it carelessly, it wears down faster than it should. And the consequence is harsh. The trip you planned to feel free and renewed can end up leaving you drained, more dependent, more irritable. You come home, and suddenly your routine feels heavier. The activities you used to enjoy now feel like effort. That's the silent danger. It's not just physical fatigue. It's your mood, your ability to enjoy the simple things, your mental clarity that start to suffer. So before you get swept up by the excitement of photos and travel deals, ask yourself this: am I willing to pay with my body for a whim, for an illusion? Because maybe what you truly need isn't to hit the road, but to learn how to walk calmly within your own limits, to strengthen each day the machine that can still carry you, if you decide to respect it. Stay with me, because the next point addresses something few dare to mention, but it's one of the most dangerous and deceptive pitfalls of traveling after 60. And it could already be creeping in without you even realizing it. So far, we've talked about physical strain, how ignoring your body's limits can quietly and dangerously catch up with you. But there's something else that often slips under the radar, something that sneaks in beneath the excitement and expectations, and if you're not careful, it can wreck not only your peace of mind, but also your long-term stability. We've reached the fifth key point of this video: hidden financial vulnerability. Here's where I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. How many times have you spent money on experiences, trips, or luxuries, telling yourself, "This is what I worked for my whole life"? How many times, after booking that ticket or that reservation, have you felt that quiet anxiety creep in, wondering if you've just jeopardized your financial peace down the line? It's not a mistake born from ignorance. It's an emotional need. Many people reach this stage of life feeling like they've earned it, that they deserve to enjoy themselves after all those years of hard work. And yes, of course, you deserve peace and enjoyment. But the problem starts when enjoyment blurs into impulsive spending, into decisions that, without you realizing it, leave you more fragile, more dependent, and with less room to handle life's curveballs. The trap is simple and cruel. They sell you the trip as a prize, a reward. But that reward, poorly calculated, can quickly become a burden. You're left with fewer savings, fewer options, and when an emergency hits, a health issue, a family member needing support, a repair at home. You find yourself cornered, forced to ask for help, to rely on others, to feel exposed. And that vulnerability isn't just about money. It shows up in how others look at you, in how your children or your circle begin to see you as someone who can no longer stand on their own. That loss of respect, that creeping feeling of losing control over your own life, costs far more than any plane ticket ever will. But I'm not here to tell you the solution is to shut yourself off from the world and hoard every penny like there's no tomorrow. That would be another extreme, just as damaging. What I want you to see is that real security doesn't come from hoarding or spending. It comes from clarity. Clarity about your limits, your priorities, about which expenses truly enrich your life and which ones are just feeding a temporary void. Change doesn't happen overnight, and I won't sell it to you like some magic formula, but it is possible. And it starts with one simple question before every financial decision. Does what I'm about to spend strengthen my independence, or does it compromise it? Because if it doesn't add to your autonomy, your peace, your real sense of purpose, then that momentary pleasure might just be one more weight dragging you down. I know many people don't want to hear this. They'd rather keep believing that money is meant to flow, that there's no time left to worry about these things. But precisely because time is shorter now, because every day counts, you need to be more conscious, more deliberate, more in control of your choices. No one is coming to save you when the account runs dry. No one else will fill that financial or emotional void for you. And even so, it's not too late. You can always rethink, always take back control, but only if you accept that living with dignity and freedom after 60 doesn't depend on how many trips you take, but on how strong the foundation is that you've built to support yourself. Stay with me, because the next point dives even deeper. It's something that might be quietly draining you without you even noticing, and it's time to confront it once and for all. By now, you've seen how poor financial choices, disguised as indulgences or rewards, can slowly drag you into a dependency no one wants to face. But there's an even greater risk, one that goes beyond the material and seeps into something more intimate, more essential. We've now reached the sixth key point of this video, the forgetting of what truly feeds the soul. I want you to do this exercise with me. Picture yourself in an airport, suitcase in hand, surrounded by glowing ads, tempting offers, and hundreds of unfamiliar faces coming and going. Notice how, despite the noise, you feel strangely empty. You glance at the ticket in your hand, and for a moment you wonder, what am I really looking for here that I haven't been able to find in my everyday life? And then, the truth hits hard. You've placed your hopes in miles traveled, in pretty postcards, in filling up your schedule with activities, just so you don't have to hear the uncomfortable echo of silence when you close your front door. This is what happens when you forget what actually nourishes your soul. You start believing you need constant movement, consuming experiences like they're remedies for an inner unrest you haven't dared to face. But the reality is different. That emptiness won't be filled by an itinerary. It's filled by purpose, by meaning, by those small daily things you've unknowingly stopped valuing. You've traded honest conversations for tour guides, moments of calm for rush and frenzy, the chance to look inward for the obsession of always looking outward. And here's where I'll tell you something blunt. No trip can cure a lack of meaning. You can circle the globe and still return with the same unease. Because if you can't find fulfillment in the simple, in an honest conversation, in your faith, in caring for your body and mind, the grand and extraordinary will eventually feel hollow. It's like trying to fill a cracked jar with water from the farthest oceans. No matter how much you pour in, it never fills. I know this message is uncomfortable. It's easier to keep seeking distractions, to cover up the emptiness with more stimulation. But that has a cost. Keeping up that outward race leads to a life that feels increasingly disconnected, where emotional exhaustion builds up, where real relationships grow cold, and where little by little you feel less seen, less respected, even by yourself. The solution isn't quick or easy. No one's going to hand it to you wrapped up in a travel brochure. It starts with honestly looking at your routine and asking yourself, what spaces have I let die that used to nourish me? When was the last time I sat still and truly reflected on my life without running toward the next thing? Seneca put it plainly, life is not short, but we waste it. And every day you spend running from yourself is a day you won't get back. I want you to think carefully about this because in the next and final point, we're going to address the deepest root of this issue, something that, if you don't face it head-on, will keep sabotaging every attempt to live with real freedom and fulfillment at this stage of your life. Stay with me till the end. This isn't just another message, it's a wake-up call. Everything we've talked about so far, the physical strain, the financial trap, the loneliness in disguise, the emotional disconnection, aren't isolated issues. They're symptoms of something deeper, something that, if you don't face it head-on, will keep influencing every decision you make at this stage of your life. And here, in the 7th point of this video, we reach the real core of the problem, the danger of putting your purpose on pause. Think for a moment about how many times you've postponed your true desires, your projects, your inner growth, under the excuse of, there'll be time. After I get back from this trip, once things settle down. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing life is a board game on standby, that you can keep distracting yourself without consequence. But the reality is much harsher. Every time you choose to fill your calendar with escapes, every time you delay what truly matters, you are slowly giving up on your own purpose, and no trip, no experience, no adventure can make up for that. The biggest mistake is thinking time is on your side, that you can afford to keep putting off what you know you need to address: your well-being, your real relationships, your faith, your discipline, your spiritual growth. But let me be clear, it's not. There are no guarantees, no shortcuts. Life doesn't wait for you to make up your mind. And as long as you keep looking outward for satisfaction rather than committing to your own life, you'll stay trapped in the same cycle. There's no room here for self-deception. No one is going to hand you extra time or more chances to start living with intention. Every day you spend avoiding your emotional and spiritual responsibilities is a day you won't get back. Purpose isn't some abstract concept. It's the concrete act of waking up and asking yourself, what am I doing today to build a life of dignity? Or am I letting comfort and avoidance drain the best of me? I know these words might sting. They're not the kind of message everyone wants to hear. But they're necessary. Because freedom, serenity, and fulfillment don't come from wandering the world aimlessly. They come from deciding not to postpone your commitment to yourself any longer. You, and no one else, are responsible for that change. Not your age, not your children, not your financial situation, only you. So take a hard look at yourself. Ask yourself what you've been putting on pause, and for how long. How much longer do you plan to delay what's essential? Life doesn't offer refunds for wasted time, but it does give you today the chance to choose differently. Stay with me, because in the final part of this video, I want to leave you with one last reflection, something that could be the difference between staying trapped in that cycle or finally breaking free from it. You're closer to that moment of decision than you think. If you've made it this far, you already know this video wasn't meant to be comfortable or convenient. This isn't just a bit of travel advice or a passing warning. You're standing at a choice, one that only you can make. A choice between continuing to postpone your purpose, letting yourself be carried along, by the inertia of distractions and empty promises, or facing the truth head-on, that every day lived without clarity, without awareness, without direction, is a day that won't come back. You've seen the hidden dangers, the traps disguised as adventure, and now you understand that your well-being isn't defined by the world outside, but by the quiet decisions you make or avoid within yourself. Let me acknowledge something very real. Not everyone makes it to the end of a message like this. Many stop the moment the truth gets uncomfortable, when they realize there are no more excuses to cling to. But you're still here, and that means you're ready to face, without running, what's truly at stake. That's why I want you to confirm your commitment by leaving a simple but powerful phrase in the comments. I choose to live with purpose, and let me know which country you're listening from. It's not just any phrase, it's a conscious act, the first step in breaking free from the patterns keeping you stuck. My name is Gabriel, and this space, the Stoic Garden, exists for a very clear reason. Not to offer easy comfort or repeat feel-good phrases, but to walk alongside you on the real path to a life of serenity, dignity, and inner strength. Here, we speak the truth without sugarcoating. Because I know it doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, or 70, there's always room to wake up, to take the reins, to stop waiting for the world to change and start transforming the time you have left. If this message made you reflect, I invite you to be part of this community. Subscribe, because here we don't soften the edges, but we do give you the tools to face life with firmness. And if you know someone who's falling into the same trap, someone who needs to open their eyes, share this video. You never know how much of a difference an honest word at the right time can make. You don't have to stop here. On screen, I'm leaving you with 2 more videos that could be your next step in strengthening your mind and taking back control of your life. Because this doesn't end today. The path to a full, purposeful life continues, and it's up to you to walk it. I'll see you in the next video.